South Korea is facing a very big problem at the moment, a drop in population that has greatly worried the government, and in reality everyone in the world. Normally 2 or more children are born per family, while in South Korea things have been a little different. In recent years, the average number of births in a Korean family has been 0.8 children per family, as if there were 10 families, and within those 10 families there were only 8 children, while 2 or more families did not. They do not have any children. In practice, the country is disappearing. That is, families are not having enough children to keep their society alive. This drop in the number of births is not just a data or a random number, but it shows a lot of big changes that have occurred in Korean culture in recent years. Much of this is a result of many movements that have been occurring in the country, where social or even economic pressures, women's work, and the problems such as marriage that have arisen there are some of the main responsible for all this. Historically, Korean society has always highly valued the family and marriage. This has always been something very Korean, and they saw it as fundamental pillars. But in recent decades, the country has gone through very rapid changes, both social changes, changes in people's mentality and the way they think, and economic changes, changes directly in the pocketbook and in the lives of people, the growth of cities, the cost of living of people, and the competitiveness of the labor market. As he mentioned that Southeast Asia is not easy to get a job or earn money in this country. All of this has led many Korean women to rethink the idea of getting married or even becoming mothers, marriage that was previously something extremely natural and even desired by many Koreans. Today it is seen as a great responsibility, or in some cases even unwanted. Women no longer want to get married. I don't want to be more, and part of this is not necessarily their fault, and you will understand it better in today's video. This is a very complex topic to understand, but I am going to try to explain it the way as simple as possible. I am going to give you as much information as possible, and at the end of this episode 1, I'm sure that you will understand this issue better, so stay with me until the end. One of the things that we have been able to observe in Korea in recent years is that as women became more and more distant, and there has been a great division between men and women, this problem worsened with the election of a new president on December 9th. March 2022. Remember this name because it will be very important later. Young Jak of the People's Power Party was elected in Korea around March 9th. March 2022. What makes him important in this entire context is that he was openly anti-feminist, or at least he used a anti-feminist speech and combat against these movements, because according to him this was something bad for Korean society. We can understand the choice of this homem as a kind of response from the Korean homens, since they felt threatened by women due to the changes that had been occurring in recent years. Is a scenario where Korean women were fighting for more rights, creating movements in search of more equality, and men felt threatened by these movements. They believed that this type of movement reflected the situation of society. In the midst of all this, a leader emerged with the speech of stopping this kind of things. With this speech, Young Ja managed to conquer many young Koreans who felt the way he mentioned and who believed that feminism was unbalancing everything by creating a very difficult environment for men and leaving everything in favor of women. During its campaign, greatly reinforced this idea of anti-feminism and the fight against it. This type of discourse united a large group of men who probably constituted the majority of their voters. In the midst of all this, a women's movement emerged that I need to explain in more detail. The 4B movement. One of the main women's movements that emerged in this context was the so-called 4B movement that was born between 2016 and 2018 in South Korea. I can summarize this movement in 4 pillars that are the 4B in Korean. The first point of this movement is called Bon, and basically means without. Marriage with men, or without heterosexual marriage. Women who follow this type of behavior reject traditional marriage, believe that traditional marriage and marrying a man contributes to more gender inequalities and more expectations about them. They do not like the idea of marriage because they believe that this cultural tradition imposes many rules and problems on their lives. Basically, they can be summarized as not marrying men. The second point of this movement is called VÍDEO, which basically means no children. This point challenges a lot the social pressure on Korean women to be mothers. Korean society sees that women need to be more, as if they were almost forced to be so throughout their lives. In a certain way, they are not wrong for not wanting to have children. In South Korea, they are often mothers. It means giving up everything you have in your life, giving up your future simply to take care of your family. You have to leave university, your studies, everything. You don't have any more opportunities in this society. You can't be as powerful as you are. Life again. Being a mother basically means giving up to your whole life to take care of your family and your children. The third point of this women's movement is the ban, which is basically similar to the first, the ban of without marriage, but in this case it is about some courtship. They believe that it is not just marriage with men it is a problem, but as a woman who participates in this movement you should avoid having relationships with men. They believe that men are the villains and that this also generates inequality and expectations on them that they do not want to fulfill. It is a somewhat strange point, but that is how it is. The last point of the B is the bison, which is the accumulation of all the previous ones. And it refers to not relating in a deep way with men. This point is basically a complete denial of men to the point of not believing that it requires two men for anything. They relate to men, and this is a form of resistance to society. They believe that they are very objectified and exploited, and they think that going against society's marriage and not relating to men Homens a way to fight against Isso a that may seem strange, but this is how it works. I want you to keep this movement in mind because it will make more sense later. The movement for B encourages many women to completely distance themselves from men and the entire structure of the society. The women who follow these ideas generally seek independence and freedom from the expectations of society and Korean tradition in their mind. This is the best they can do, but later you will understand what are the consequences of this type of activity to or reject marriage, children on NOV or any. Even so, this is not a very easy topic to address. I had to do a lot of research to understand these things, but what we can see here is that Korea is facing a very serious problem between men and women, and this could have very serious consequences for society. Furthermore, this represents a kind of opportunity for foreigners, because due to these problems that the country is facing is becoming more and more open to immigration. It is the same old story. True Koreans discard a woman who is prefect 25 years old because she is considered old, but a foreigner does not discard her, even at 80. Well, that's it. What I wanted to discuss with you in today's video. There are not many things I can add. At this point, I am not going to give my own conclusions about what I think or do not think about this matter. I want you to comment below. What do you think about all this, about these feminist movements that are emerging, and believe that this is something that also exists in our countries? Comment below. I would very much like to discuss it with you here in the comments. Thank you very much for watching up to here again, and until the next video.